everyone, this is Tom. Once again, we are featuring another great story from our trip to Wales. This time, we're speaking to Fflur, who is the Senior Curator for Cultural Life at the National Museum of Wales at St Fagans. So, hope you enjoy it, and we'll talk to you soon.
So, I'm Fflur. I'm Senior Curator of Cultural Life. So, I'm based at St Fagans. And we're at our collection centre, so a huge kind of storeroom where we keep a lot of our objects. And we're here looking at one of our new acquisitions, the Jessie Knight collection.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to be back with the stuff because, you know, it's this enormous collection of paper, photographs, tattoo machines, old dirty rags. And yeah, to cut a long story short, at the end of the COVID pandemic, we were able to convince, I suppose is the right word, the Arts Council and the HMRC to deem this collection of art historical importance, a special importance for the nation. And particularly because, I reached out to you guys here and said, we've got this amazing collection that has this really interesting Welsh story. If we're not careful, it's going to disappear into the ether. And you guys have just been brilliant at understanding its value and its interest. So yeah, can you tell us a bit about, I don't know, generally what St Fagans and what you as a curator are normally collecting and why you thought it was worth trying to acquire this collection?
Well, St Fagans used to be, a folk museum. So a lot of the collecting from when it opened in the 1940s to the 1980s, say, was mostly focused around folk and rural life. So, for example, we've got lots of love spoons and harps and things that people think are really quintessentially Welsh. But in recent years, we are now a National History Museum. So we have a duty to make sure that everybody in Wales is reflected in the collection and everybody can see themselves when they come into an exhibition or display. Their histories are also told. So it's not one type of history. So now we're looking at where we've got huge gaps in the collection and really trying to fill those gaps. For example, we now have a Black History curator who is collecting things to do around the experiences of Welsh Black people. We've got an LGBTQ plus curator. So that's really what we're doing in St Fagans at the moment. So when we heard about this collection, we thought, well, it's an amazing collection, but also it's linked to Wales. It's linked to, I guess, Welsh subcultures as well. And, today, so many people have tattoos. I'm not sure, what is it? 1 in 3? I'm not sure.
It's about that, I think. Yeah.
So, we want everybody to be able to come to the museum and see something that's of interest to them and maybe get people who wouldn't usually come to the museum to come in. And I think this will really achieve that.
I hope so. I mean, I sort of sent my first email contact to Sinead was a bit like, help, I need someone to, and instantly I think she and her whole team, including yourself, really understood that this had value as to tell stories, not just stories about tattooing. I wonder if you could talk a bit about, how the process of bringing it here has been and what kind of challenges and opportunities you've faced as bringing this unwieldy collection. I mean, it's over 700 items, isn't it? And a lot of it's very unusual compared to the stuff that you've been collecting before. So, yeah, what's been the process of actually bringing it here and dealing with it practically?
Yeah, so it's an unusual collection for us. We don't often collect collections of this size, but this type of collection, the last thing you'd want is to separate it. It's so important for us to have the complete collection here. So, yeah, I think it is nearly 1,000 object.
Yeah, so I say 700 because when we first catalogued it in Cornwall, when we had it on display, we sort of gave up counting because we sort of ran out of time and energy, and the last few things are just like box of photos or whatever. So
every single thing now in the collection has been given a number and a record on our internal system, and will be going up on our Collections Online website as well. So that, every single photograph, every piece of tracing paper, cloth, the bag, and every single thing, even, a tin of just random little bits, every single thing has to have a number, and that's how we do it in the museum. So that's been a huge task in itself. That's taken working about 1 day a week on it, about a year of doing that and just putting in very basic catalogue entries. So we've done that work. Every single piece is being digitised. So our photography department is based in the museum in Cardiff, the National Museum Cardiff. So every Wednesday at the moment, we're taking like a box to the photography department, picking up another box. So that's a huge job in itself.
Because when I first contacted Neil about heard about the collection on the grapevine, and there were sort of rumours about how much of it survived, and he just sent me on, and I've still got these pictures. He sent them me on Facebook Messenger, just like so many photos of bags, plastic bags, sports holders, of stuff, and like and then when we had it in Cornwall, took some low resolution photographs and stuff. But I'm so excited that you're taking proper photography, and you've had the time and the resources and the energy and the and the kind of expertise, I suppose, to digitize it properly.
Yeah. So we're nearly there now. So we're hoping everything will be up in a couple of months. So that'd be brilliant. That people can go on.
Yeah. And that in itself is a completely unique resource. I mean, the collection is unique in the world, really. There are a few tattoo history collections in museums. The closest analogue, I think, is the Christian Varlick collection in Hamburg, but nothing of this scale, nothing of this time period, because it's Jessie's stuff and the stuff that her dad had collected. So we've got probably, nigh on 60, 70 years of stuff. As well as all of the little ancillary, as you said, bits of tracing paper, machines, ink, dirty towels. As a collection, I think this is unique in the world, and even just having it available to look at online is going to transform people's opinions and attitudes towards this stuff, as well as inspire and excite. We were just talking before we started recording about the kind of things that are, will come from this, whether it's textile designers, print, graphic designers, as well as all the social history stuff. It's great art, it's great imagery, but it's also great social history. It's also great Welsh history and storytelling. All of this stuff coming together in these sort of, as we're looking in front of us, dirty, stained, nicotine marked objects. So yeah, like I think we're gonna talk to Lisa, the conservator, a bit more specifically about some of the conservation. But can you talk to us a bit about, again, some of the challenges compared to of these as objects for you? Like, where do you put it? How do you keep it safe? What have you been doing to try and turn this stuff that was just kept in bags in someone's loft into a collection that's going to last in a museum?
Yeah, so they're all being conserved at the moment, every single item, and they're all going to be repackaged, so they'll all be kind of split into different materials and packaged in a really accessible way. So, I think this is going to be a really popular collection. I think we're going to have a lot of groups coming in to see it. So we want people to see these. We want to be able to get them out easily. The only ones that are going to be a little bit trickier are the kind of concertina ones and the ones that are scrolls, because they're covered in, I don't know what it is,
some weird plastic. Yeah.
So they're actually going to be kept in a freezer.
Really?
Yeah. So I know. So we do have huge freezers on site for materials such as those. So some of them came in and they were quite sticky and kind of started.
Don't ask any questions about that.
Yeah, so but Lisa's doing an amazing job in them and been on courses to learn how to preserve the plastic coated ones. Really, when they first came in, Lisa said, I'm not sure, I think maybe we'll have 10 or 20 years with some of these plastic ones and they might just go. And, obviously, so we were making sure that those ones are being digitised first of all, just in case there was no way of salvaging them. But she's been on courses and, she's found out great ways of preserving them, and they're going to be preserved, I think, for forever. Yeah, for generations to come.
And it's really nice you talk about them being usable, because Neil, who donated them, part of what he was really keen to do, and one of the reasons that he did want to keep it together and keep it as a museum collection, was so that people could see it. And he knew that if it disappeared piece by piece into private collections, as has happened with other important tattoo history collections, it would never be seen again together, and it's certainly many of the individual pieces would just have never been seen again. And I think it's interesting. I know it's, again, that's a different kind of thinking, isn't it, from museums recently, to think about access and use for objects. But it's really clear from the earliest conversations I had with you guys that thinking about new audiences, about access, about not just putting this on a shelf and bringing out once a decade to put on display, you've really done a lot of thinking as a museum about that, right?
Yeah, definitely. And, we're thinking of research in different ways, where before, as a museum, research would always be maybe an academic paper or publication. But now we're trying to do a lot of research with communities, with young people who are interested. That is just as valuable as research 100%. As a published paper. So, over the next few years now, as this is being researched, it'd be great to have groups groups from the tattoo community, people who work in the industry, young people who are also interested in the topic. So that's going to be a really...
Old people who might have seen it the first time round.
Yeah, exactly. People who might have a Jessie Knight tattoo, people who might remember the shop, whether that's... in South England or in Barry, who knows? So, the possibility is endless. And hopefully from that research, there'll be some ideas then perhaps of how we should interpret them, how they should be displayed. I think all of this is going to be an ongoing conversation.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a museum, especially a museum like yours, can really do brilliantly. And I'm super excited. It does make my life easier as a tattoo historian, and hopefully easier for tattoo historians in the future, because it's going to be here. And what I'm really happy with, honestly, is that you're treating it seriously. Like, as you said, even like we've got to put this in I mean, I do think it's like, as I said to you earlier on before we start recording, I think it is hilarious that you're handling these old tattoo machines with gloves on, given. As Tom said, our producer, he said that you're probably the first people ever to handle those with rubber gloves in their lives, because they're pre-glove era tattoo machines. Yeah. But that does say something about just because, even though these are vernacular objects that have come from smoke-filled toe shops and they're covered in sticky tape and fingerprint masks and coffee stains, they're no less important or precious or useful or worth preserving than something that's a bit more straightforwardly fine art, right?
Completely. And we have to make sure that generations to come can also access this, and that hopefully Jessie Knight will become a more familiar name. So. Because I think I'd never heard of her. I think most of the people in Wales wouldn't have heard of her. I think only people with a real interest in tattoos. And she's such a kind of iconic woman with these links to Wales is so important.
That's such a good... Iconic's, I think, the right way to put it.
Yeah. So so hopefully the kind of the conservation and preserving them, that's absolutely crucial.
And of course, it's not just her. She also has this extended family, which are represented a bit at the edges of the collection. But I'm sure, again, with research and with interest, will lead people on to think about her father, who was a circus man and a sailor. Her sister, who was in a sharpshooting act. Her brother-in-law, who was a a Welshman who put on a very heavy American accent and called himself Rex Roper as a cowboy act. Like, I think there's beyond the objects here. This leads into all kinds of interesting places. I guess last question I wanted to ask you, and I don't want you to break any confidences here, but can you? Obviously, the museum's going through a period of changing and developing, and this is an unusual collection. Can you talk a bit about how your more conservative volunteers or people involved with the museum in some way have adjusted to having this collection here?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I think it is a shock to some people, and
quite a lot of nudity in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of nudity. I've said some of the images, some of the pictures will be going through a decolonising process as well, because there's obviously a lot of pictures of
like real kind of stereotypical images which are very uncomfortable to a modern eye.
We are, we know before some of those images will be able to go in collections online that we will have some sort of warning beforehand. So we are treating them sympathetically, hopefully. But yes, I think the vast majority of people are very excited about it and are really, keen to see them on display soon, hopefully. But I think that by some people that might have been a bit of a shock. And it's and where do they fit within the museum kind of collections? Are they social history? Are they design? Are they art? I think some people have got their own opinions about that as well. We've got a maritime museum. Should they be more kind of part of that collection? So they really fall in between a lot of different collections within the museum.
Yeah, I always love having those conversations. And again, talking to Sinead and you guys, were really first off the bat, it was obvious that you understood how this fitted and didn't fit, actually, and as you said, fills sort of some gaps and joins some dots up, right, between the folk history, where you've got these amazing collections of love spoons and folk art, and the maritime history and the social history and the gender stuff and the popular culture, like all of these things that you're doing. Tattooing is one way, at least, of joining those dots up together. So yeah, thank you. Like, I'm so grateful to all of you guys here for making this happen, because I wasn't privy to the internal conversations, and I know they can't have been straightforward, particularly as a lot of this was happening during COVID. I was really terrified that this wasn't going to go through because, who knows what was happening. But you guys all had faith in it and saw, even though I think some of you are tattoo people, some of you aren't, but like all of you realised that this is, as you said, like iconic. It's funny and it's shocking and it's sexy and it's like surprising and joyful and in all those different ways. So yeah, thank you so much for everything you guys are doing and continue to do.
Thank you for bringing the collection to our attention in the first place. So
thank you so much.
Thank you.